As I walked down through Chatham Street, a fair maid I did meet. She asked me to see her home, she lived in Bleecker Street. To me away, Santy, my dear Annie. Oh, you New York girls, can you dance the polka?
The Long Haul Podcast, America's Irish Voice. Interviews with inspiring immigrants, renowned Irish personalities, and discussions on all things Irish America. Presented by Michael Dorgan and Johnny Kennedy.
Away, you Santy, my dear Annie.
In this week's podcast, Frank Brady returns to us to give us an update on the GAA championship scene and gives us a rundown on the county finals taking place this Sunday in Gaelic Park. I'll kick off there. So, Frank, thanks very much for coming on the Long Haul Podcast, giving us a preview for what's a feast of GAA up in Gaelic Park this coming Sunday with 3 county finals in store. There is the Hurling, junior hurling final, and then there is the senior football final, followed by the senior hurling final. But Frank, I just wanted to touch base on what's been happening since you came on the podcast last. There's been silverware given out already. Last Saturday, there was a new intermediate county champions crowned with when Brooklyn took the intermediate gong. So I heard it was a bruising and tough affair, not for the faint-hearted. You wrote on the Irish Voice and the Irish Echo. So give us a brief overview on what happened there.
Yeah, it was a very exciting game, a tough game. And as I said, no place for players with wing mirrors in it. And it went right down to the wire. The issue could have gone any way. But Brooklyn managed to get a goal at a critical time, which definitely helped to see them over the line. But as I said, the game could have gone either way. And it was a very competitive, intense, hard-fought battle, each side giving their best. Nothing was left behind.
And there was a few 45s from the keeper, Cunningham there. I heard he was been compared to Stephen Cluxton.
Yes. As a matter of fact, that comment came from the press box. He sauntered up the field, and with all the coolness in the world, he belted over 2 45s. And they were absolutely critical on a day when scores were very, very hard to come by because defences tend to dominate. And he had lots to spare when he kicked them over. So.
Okay, and it was a close game. And how did the intermediate championship pan out overall this year?
I would say the intermediate championship was the most competitive of any of the divisions. Most games, were critically important and went right down to the wire. There were really no wipeouts. Everybody was in with a realistic chance until the later stages of the competition.
Okay, fantastic. And there were six teams, I think, involved in the intermediate this year. Was it, Frank?
Yeah, that's correct. Yes. And of course, the 2 best teams definitely got to the final.
Okay, cool. So on we go. So to on we go to this Sunday. But of course, the precursor was last Sunday when the senior football county final took place between St. Barnabas, the All-American team, and the reigning champions Sligo. A ding-dong affair, went right to the wire after 60 minutes, and even extra time couldn't separate them. Must have been a real nail biter.
It certainly was, and it was an absolutely wonderful exhibition of football. There were some great scores scored by either side, and one in particular that kind of got the Barnabas momentum going was one from young Mikey Brosnan. Collected the ball out on the left wing, left several players in his wake and belted the ball confidently over the bar from about 45 to 50 yards. Now, both sides could claim that they should have won, and rightly so. I know Barnabas missed a few opportunities. They were kind of goal hungry at stages. But then again, Sligo had a few frees that dropped short that normally would have gone over. One of the things that was noticeable, I think, that the bit of experience seemed to help Sligo. Johnny Glynn was strategically planted in front of the goals, and he executed the mark extremely well, whilst Barnabas had a number of opportunities to call a mark and didn't. But I think the experience of last Sunday will stand them in good stead for this coming battle on Sunday.
Okay, and do you think has there been any injuries on either side coming out of last week's game that you're aware of? I suppose they're keeping their cards close to their chest.
No, I just met my neighbour who lives down the street here, Conor Hogan, and he says they're all fit and well to go on Sunday and hope to deliver the goods.
Okay. So I was just saying, just for people who'd like to come out and look at the replay this Sunday, there's fantastic news announced yesterday by the county board here. All 3 finals are going to be streamed online on the New York GAA Facebook page this Sunday. So I spoke to Joan Henchy last night, and she wanted to advise people to, if they can, to watch it online, as of course with the COVID restrictions, she wants everyone to stay safe. So that's one of the main driver why the streaming is been provided for people this Sunday. There won't be a cap on people entering the grounds, and I'm sure there will be a large Barnabas contingent up there again. But she was just saying that the streaming service is available, and she hopes that people do avail of that. So Frank, just let people know, there's a couple. Of course, it's an All-American team, Barnabas. I suppose Sligo, maybe the neutrals wanted Sligo to win their first championship last year. This year, the roles are reversed. I think all the neutrals in New York want Barnabas to clinch that first title, being an All-American team. There's, of course, the Matter brothers will be known to a few, and the Hogan brothers there. So just to tell us what's history beckons, what's at stake for these young lads this Sunday.
Yeah, this is certainly a very unprecedented final where you have an All-American, as you said, an All-American born squad versus a more traditional squad that would have predominantly Irish-born players. But having said that, they also have 3 American-born players in their ranks: Stephen Curley, Daniel McKenna, and Shane Queen, and they're All-American-born players that are playing with Sligo. The interesting thing about Sligo were in the doldrums for a number of years, and then 2 years ago, they came up and won the intermediate, and they followed that up last year with the senior, and of course they're very anxious to repeat. Now, Barnabas have been senior since 2015 when they won the intermediate, and they have always been competitive. And in past years, they would have won a couple of games early on, but then once the summer sanctions came and the students, they tended to be at a disadvantage because they always clung very closely to their core values, which is protecting and playing their own players, and they were never as competitive in the later part. But this year, due to the COVID virus, there was no invasion of sanctioned players or students, so Barnabas are evidently one of the top teams in New York when you look at the local talent that they have here. Now, one very interesting thing about Sunday would be the position of Larry McCarthy. Of course, Larry is the incoming president of the GAA, and I think under normal circumstances, Larry might be very happy to see an American-born team win. But the other side of the coin is that Larry has been a major part of the Sligo team, at the Sligo club, for the last, I guess, 4 decades, having started off as a player and being a manager, and probably held every position in between over the years. So it's definitely a very intriguing contest on Sunday. And I know it's getting a lot of publicity in Ireland, judging from the media over there, and rightly so. And Barnabas are quite an experienced team, because when you look at their pathway so far, you know, they all have excelled at the FELA level in the CYC here in the States, and then many of them were also part of played in the competition, the British Universities competition, and the Trench Cup in Ireland. So they're quite a young team, but still quite experienced.
And Frank, just let people know how hard that is to have an All-American team, especially when they come into that younger years of their early 20s, competing with other sports. I suppose a lot of these lads are going to university.
That's very true. There's a huge attrition rate in the minor board once players get to 14 or 15, because many of them go to different high schools, and they kind of lose contact with each other, and that trend accelerates as they get older. But Barnabas is that bit different, because first of all, you know, the Barnabas team is located in a very strong Irish enclave. That's the Woodlawn area, the McLean Avenue area, and the Katona Avenue area. And the fact that they have Paddy's Field, and there's a tremendous family and fealty orientation running through this club. And perhaps a very good example of that are the Hogan brothers. Their grandfather, Richie Handlow, was one of the founding members of the Barnabas Club in 1972. And then another man who played a major role over the years, just to kind of illustrate the family connection, was Eamon Dean. Eamon played with St. Barnabas. He was chairman of the club. He was also chairman of the minor board. He won a junior league with them. Then a few years ago, his son Liam won a junior medal with St. Barnabas. So there's a very, very strong family connection, very strong bonds in the Barnabas Club. And part of that has to do, as I said, being located in a very strong Irish enclave. you would be forgiven, driving down McLean Avenue or Katona Avenue on any given day that you're maybe in a small town in the west of Ireland, because it's not unknown or unheard of for two fellas to pull up in the middle of the street and having a chat out the window of the car, oblivious to whatever else is going on around them. So Barnabas are unique in that sense that they're entrenched in a very strong Irish enclave.
Yeah, so that's the Bronx kind of Yonkers area.
Yes, yeah.
And of course, there's one man who's been on the score sheet a lot this year has been Mikey Brosnan, and his father, of course, is chairman of the club at the moment. Frank, would I be right?
Yes, and he's also vice chairman of the minor board. And I will say this about Mike Brosnan. Mike Brosnan was the best player in New York all through the 90s. As a matter of fact, he assumed that mantle from a Cork man, I believe. Well, he wasn't a Cork man, but he played with Cork, played with the Rebels, and that was Larry Tompkins.
We'll claim him.
Yes, and rightly so. And you claimed another good man with him as well. So once Larry returned to Ireland, Mike Brosnan was definitely the top player in New York all through the 90s, and I had the good fortune and the pleasure of coaching him when he played with Leitrim here.
And on the Sligo side, I suppose we have the Johnny Glynn, of course, who's the former Galway hurler. Yes,
Johnny has added a huge dimension to the Sligo team, and not just to Sligo, but to New York in general here. He's become deeply involved in every aspect of the GAA, from coaching to managing both hurling and in football. And he's definitely a powerful asset, not just to Sligo, but also to the New York scene here. And a highly respected, a highly rated player. And he's doing tremendous work with the Sligo club. And also, he was on the New York County Committee this year and was involved in training them for their battle with Galway, which obviously didn't take place.
Yeah, and Peter Cook was on the score sheet as well last week.
Yes, Peter is a very, very good talent. He's a former inter-county player, and incidentally, on the first day that he played with Sligo, he was their man of the match, and he certainly played a critical role last Sunday, because in any of these games, 45s seem to become more and more critical, and he had no problem launching a few of them over.
Okay. And so that game is kicking off, or throwing in, I should say, at 2:00 Sunday, at 2:00 Eastern. So if you are watching at home in Ireland, that would be 7 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. So, Frank, you think that Barnabas will improve the most from last week, you're saying?
Well, I think the experience will have been very valuable. As I said, they had a number of opportunities that if they had to take points and rather trying to get goals, the outcome might have been slightly different. But then again, I have to say I'm a little bit biased here. I was the trainer of the Barnabas team going back 7 or 8 years ago when they won the junior championship and the media championship, and I've been part, as a matter of fact, the very last team that I played with in New York about 20 years ago. So naturally, my loyalties would lie with Barnabas, but I also appreciate the distance that Sligo has come in the last couple of years. As I said, they were a non-factor for a lot of years, and they got a major rebound 3 years ago when they come up and won the intermediate and backed that then up with the senior. And I think that they're still going very well.
And just the Matters brothers there's three of them on the panel.
Yeah, three of them. There are three of them featuring on the St. Barnabas team, and their home team would be the Shannon Gaels, and the Shannon Gaels is another team that's all American-born players, and they are favourites to win the Junior B Championship. And aside from O'Donovan and Rossa, they're the most recent team to be established in New York. And not alone that, but they have acquired their own grounds out there, and they're doing tremendous work in developing it. So it's great to see these American-born players. It's a great validation for the minor board here and what can be done with local talent. I think over the years we have been overly dependent somewhat on Irish talent, and kind of like the US being dependent on foreign oil, and then when that's not available, we have to look at our own resources. And I think we're going in the right direction here, developing. Naturally, we have development officers in hurling and football, and I think that was a great initiative by the New York GAA. And obviously, we have to get more of these young people involved in other competitions so as to give them plenty of experience.
So just finally on the final Sunday, I just wanted to touch on those Matter brothers again, Frank. So they play with Shannon Gaels Junior.
They play with Shannon Gaels, yes.
And then they draft up then to senior. just
That's
explain
right.
the process there in New York for people that the players could draft up to senior?
Yes, well, it serves a number of purposes. First of all, it gives players the opportunity to play more football, and it also gains them very valuable experiences. And then it also helps clubs who might be having difficulty with numbers to stay viable and vibrant by drafting players from another club. It's a great benefit to most clubs, and especially the players. And a very good example of that are the three Mathers brothers. By the way, I'm told there are two others that are also excellent players, so you can look forward to seeing those gentlemen down the road a little bit.
Okay, so we'll move on then, Frank. So after the senior football game, there's the hurling final. That's on at 4 p.m. Eastern. That's 9 p.m. Irish time. So Hoboken, they're another relatively new club, going for 3 in a row this year against the former champions Tipperary. They did the double back in 2015, 2016. So Hoboken going for 3 in a row there to put their stamp on being the dominant force over the last couple of years. How do you think that will go?
This will be another very close battle. Of course, Hoboken basically have the edge and the bragging right. So far, they are unbeaten. But when they played earlier in the year, they were only 2 points between the sides, and Hoboken might have been a shade lucky because they got a late goal that clinched the issue for them. And also, the Hoboken team have some Tipperary players, and one of the key players on the Hoboken team would be Paul Lucknan, and Paul would have played a lot of years with Tipperary in New York here. They also have another very, very good forward. I don't know where he came from, Paul Jordan, but he's absolutely lethal when he's on the ball. And they seem to be a very well-balanced team, playing mostly at centre-half back. There's Harry O'Connor, and is a great man at driving his team forward. Now, having said that, Tipperary are in the final, and one player who has certainly very impressive statistics this year is Michael Sheedy up front. And they have also got a very well-balanced team. Liam O'Connor at the back, and they have Ross Butler and Kevin Butland and John O'Neill and Liam O'Donovan all playing critical roles. So I think this will be a very close contest, but I think that Hoboken will just get over the line.
Yeah. So Hoboken is over in New Jersey there, Frank. So there's a big Irish contingency living over in Hoboken. And they're a relatively new club as well, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. They're only a few years in the system. But then again, as I said, some of their players have been played with Tipperary already, and of interest will be the Glynns. Brian Glynn plays with Hoboken. He will be playing in the football, and I'm not too sure about Johnny, whether Johnny will be playing hurling or not, but he'll definitely be playing football. So it'll be double duty for the Glynn brothers on Sunday, playing with Hoboken and also with Sligo.
Johnny isn't playing with them anyway this Sunday. Johnny didn't transfer over.
Okay. Yes. There might have been some administrative issues with his transfer or whatever. So he's not playing. Okay. Thank you for that.
And so Frank, that's going on. So the senior championship this year, there of course was Westmeath as well. So what's happening? Could you just explain the system this year, Frank? That there was a senior final, and those who finished in the semis are playing in the junior final Sunday. That's
correct. So the junior final on Sunday will have Ulster against Westmeath. Westmeath beat Limerick last Sunday in hurling. Just about had a couple of points to spare at the end, and Westmeath would be recognised as a fairly serious hurling team in this town. Now, what is interesting about the Limerick team, at least 7 or maybe 8 of them were all American-born players, including some of the players who had already played in the final against Sligo. That included Mikey Brosnan and Gerard Kennedy, 2 wonderful wing forwards in Gaelic, but also quite good with the hurling. Plus, there were a number of other players playing with Limerick that would have starred with the Rangers over the years, and especially this year. Westmeath managed to pull out a victory. It was a huge score, but one man scored 4-13, Ger McPartlin for Westmeath. So I would imagine that the Ulster gentleman will be keeping a very close eye on him, and I wouldn't be surprised if he sees a little bit of timber on Sunday, because he certainly won't. I posed this question in the paper during the week, whether 4-13 was a record for an individual player. Ulster has a pretty solid outfit. They have a couple of very, very good players, and also a few American-born players on the team. One gentleman who caught my eye early on in the season was Steve McNamee. He's a fairly prolific scorer. And also another gentleman up front, Oisin Wendell. And of course, they have the McFetrich and Brian McNaughton. Those are serious hurlers that have been around quite a while. And there's also a noted footballer in the ranks. That's Peter Hatzer, who's a very good footballer, but also quite a good hurler. So I would be favouring Ulster in this one. And the main reason being because Westmeath tend to over-rely on Gerard McPartlin, even though they have some other very good hurlers in Ultan O'Connor and Josh Dennehy and Jack Martin. But I give the nod to Ulster to take the junior title this year.
And Westmeath are quite a strong club here in New York.
Yes, Westmeath. Yeah, 3 teams. Yes. Tom Nugent is quite proud of that fact, that they host 3 teams, but perhaps there should be a little asterisk put next to it because they're combined with Offaly in junior.
Did I see Mike Stones togging out there last week?
Yes, well, Mike is always kind of togged out, ready for the cause if needed. Which and of course his son is playing for Westmeath as well. So you got to give them credit, for putting 3 teams on the field.
Yeah, so that's the first game throwing in Sunday at 12:30. That will be live streamed. All 3 games again are being live streamed on the New York GAA Facebook page. That's starting at 12:30 Eastern time, so that would be 5:30 at home in Ireland. And just touching back on the senior hurling, Frank. So your shout there again was Hoboken to complete the 3 in a row.
Yes. Maybe that might be a dangerous proposition because I frequently meet some Tipperary people around the neighbourhood. But anyway, I'll stick with it.
Okay, perfect. And so, Frank, of course, we're at the business end of the season this weekend, but not the end of the season by any shot. We still have the junior football championships to be played off, the Junior A and Junior B.
That's correct, yeah.
I think the Junior B final is down for Sunday week, and maybe the Junior A final is down for the weekend after, the weekend of the October the 11th. So how is the junior been going?
Well, the most impressive team in the Junior B is certainly Shannon Gaels, and they have obliterated most teams that they have met so far. So they're kind of strong favourites to win it. Now, the Junior A has also been very competitive, and Kerry seem to have made a late run at it. They have assembled quite a formidable team. They got some players back that they didn't have early on in the season, including, I don't forget his first name, Culhan, who was on the New York team, a wonderful athlete. And up front, they got some lethal weapons, especially the down man, and also yes,
Muldoon, who was captain of the New York team last year. So
yes,
would have been
Gary O'Driscoll also seemed to have regained his form that won a place on the Kerry team a good many years ago, and of course Gary also won a New York senior championship with Leitrim going back 8 or 9 years ago when he was man of the match here. So they're looking pretty sharp at the moment.
So there's eight teams there in the junior football, Frank, and there's a 4 go forward into the semis.
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So that's, and now of course the ladies football is in high gear as well. Have you been to many ladies football?
Yes. Well, I have an assignment this evening.
Or have you been in the middle with the whistle?
Yes, I have been. I have been a referee the game last weekend up in Rockland. And I'm heading up there this evening later on to referee another game. And I don't know what stage the competition is at yet, because they've also been playing games out in the new field in Queens. Okay. So, but it's up and running, and they have a smaller teams. They're fielding smaller teams. They're fielding 11 aside, and they're playing 20-minute halves.
But it's fantastic that we got something up and running anyway.
Absolutely, yes. And I think it was absolutely wonderful looking at the New York GAA this year, that given the circumstances, that they were able to pack so many games into such a short period of time, and now we're right down to the wire with the finals. And on Sunday, I just want to mention, and I know you already alluded to it, there is concern about the crowd. And I'm being told that the New York GAA will have extra stewards to encourage people to sit at all ends of the field and not just congregate around the centre. And that will kind of, dissipate the crowd a little bit and help the situation.
Yeah, there's an expansive stand there anyway.
Yes.
There's a bit of a hill there, so hopefully people can enjoy it safely. And we're in store for a good feast of GAA action this Sunday.
Without a doubt.
Perfect, Frank. Thanks so much, Frank. And
you're welcome.
Touch base again in a couple of weeks for a review, and I'll see you Sunday.
All right, Mike. Take care. All right.
Thanks, Frank. Bye.
Why, Santi, my dear Annie.
And that's all for this week's podcast. Don't forget to check out some of our previous GAA podcasts with Cork football legend Larry Tompkins, Dublin footballer Jack McCaffrey, former Galway hurler Johnny Glynn, and former Kerry County Board Chairman Pat the Bag O'Sullivan on his thoughts on the New York GAA scene. Keep up to date with the latest New York Championship match reports by buying a copy of the Irish Voice or Irish Echo, or else logging on to irishcentral.com. And don't forget to give us a follow on Facebook, Instagram or Twitter at The Long Haul Podcast.
My dear Annie, oh, you New York girls, can you dance the polka? And when we got to Bleecker Street, we stopped at 44. Her mother and her sisters there to meet her at the door. To me away, you Santy, my dear Annie, oh, you New York girls, can you dance